Every mystery begins not with knowledge, but with a feeling, that quiet spark of curiosity that rises when we realize how little we truly understand. It's not a sharp feeling, not excitement or fear, but something gentler, a hum, a pull, an ache for meaning. Science has explained so much, the stars, the cells, the chemistry of life, and yet, the more we uncover, the more we see how much remains in shadow. Knowledge doesn't shrink the mystery, it deepens it. The night sky has always been the first reminder of that. Long before telescopes or theories, people simply looked up and wondered what the stars were. They had no tools, no measurements, just awe. And maybe that's the truest kind of understanding we ever had. Even now, in a world of satellites and equations, the same feeling lingers. We can send machines to other planets, split atoms, even trace the birth of the cosmos. But still, so much slips through our fingers. For every discovery, there are 10 new questions waiting in silence. Why does the universe exist at all? Why are the laws of nature so perfectly balanced that they allow us to be here, breathing, thinking, feeling? Science can describe how things happen: gravity, light, time, motion, but not why there is something rather than nothing. That single question sits beneath everything else. Why is there anything here to ask about? And no matter how advanced we become, that question remains like a soft echo under the noise of human progress. Sometimes we treat the unknown as a void, something to fear or conquer. But what if it isn't darkness at all? What if the unknown is the soft fabric that holds everything together? An invitation, not an absence. Every scientist, every dreamer, every poet who ever looked beyond the horizon felt that same invitation. It's what made us light fires, map the stars, build instruments, write stories. It's what keeps us searching, even when we know the answers may never come. There's beauty in that restlessness. It means the universe is bigger than our explanations, richer than our equations. It means we are part of something vast enough to stay mysterious, even to itself. Imagine this. You're lying under the night sky. The air is still. The stars seem fixed, timeless, eternal. But every single one of them is moving, spinning, changing, even as you breathe. The light that reaches you now began its journey long before humans even existed. Some of that light left its star millions of years before life began on Earth. And now it reaches your eyes, right here, right now. It doesn't rush, it doesn't explain itself, it just arrives. That is the rhythm of the universe, patient, quiet, eternal. We often think mystery means confusion, but perhaps it's just the natural pace of things, the long, slow heartbeat of existence itself. Look around you. Every sound, every object, every movement is built on principles we still don't fully understand. Light behaves like both a wave and a particle. Time flows in only one direction, though physics doesn't demand it. Matter clings to itself through forces invisible to the eye. Even your thoughts, the ones listening to these words, are electrical storms made of matter that once belonged to stars. How strange that we can think about the cosmos using atoms that were born in it, that we are made of the same thing we're trying to understand. It's easy to forget how impossible that is, how miraculous. Science can tell us what things are made of, but not what they mean. It can predict, measure, test, and repeat, but it cannot touch the mystery of why. Why do we love? Why do we dream? Why do we ask questions at all? Every discovery opens a door, and behind it waits another hallway of questions. The deeper we go, the more vast it becomes. It's not failure, it's the design. Maybe the universe doesn't want to be solved. Maybe it wants to be experienced, because in every atom, every ripple of light, every heartbeat, there is more mystery than we could ever measure. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the point isn't to reach the end of the map, but to enjoy walking through it, to feel small, curious, and alive inside the unexplainable. When you let yourself rest in that feeling, something inside softens. The questions stop demanding answers. The mind quiets. The unknown becomes not a puzzle to solve, but a place to rest. Mystery, after all, is the birthplace of wonder. And wonder, that quiet awe, is what makes life feel sacred, even without understanding why. The people who first looked at the stars didn't know what they were. Neither do we, not really. We've given them names and distances and ages, but they remain unreachable, unknowable. And yet, we keep looking up because something in us recognizes something in them. A reflection maybe, a connection. The same fire that burns in the heart of a star burns faintly in us. That's not just poetry, it's physics. Every atom in your body was once inside a star that lived, burned, and died billions of years ago. You are made of the same stuff as the heavens you wonder about. So, when you look at the sky, you're not looking outward, you're looking home. We live surrounded by things we can't explain. We always have. And yet, we've built entire worlds within that uncertainty. Languages, cities, ideas, love. The unknown didn't stop us, it shaped us. So, maybe we don't need every answer. Maybe it's enough to simply ask, to live in the middle of mystery with open eyes and a calm heart. If you listen closely, you can hear the quiet rhythm beneath everything, the low hum of existence, the breathing of stars, the stillness between thoughts. That's the sound of the universe continuing, unbothered by our questions. It doesn't hurry to explain itself. It just is. And maybe that's what we should learn from it, that not every mystery needs solving, that sometimes peace comes not from knowing, but from noticing. So, as the world grows quiet and your thoughts begin to slow, remember this: you are not separate from the unknown. You are made of it. You are part of the mystery that science still can't name. You are a question the universe is asking itself, softly, endlessly, beautifully. And that's enough. If you could rewind time, not just centuries or millennia, but all the way back, you would see everything collapse into itself. Galaxies folding inward, stars fading to silence, planets vanishing like sparks in wind. The further back you go, the smaller it all becomes. Space tightens, time slows, and then, at some unimaginable point, everything that ever existed, every particle, every idea, every dream, becomes one, a single point. That's where our story begins. Or, perhaps, where it stops. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion in space, it was the creation of space itself. Not a burst of fire and emptiness, but emptiness learning how to expand. And yet, for all we know about that first instant, one question still hangs unanswered in the silence. What caused it? Science can describe what happened after, how matter formed, how stars lit, how galaxies spun, but not why. The equations crumble when we reach that moment. The math doesn't break down because it's wrong, but because it was never meant to describe the first breath of everything. Maybe the Big Bang wasn't a beginning at all. Maybe it was just the latest in an infinite chain of expansions and contractions, universes blooming and fading like waves on a cosmic shore. And if that's true, then what we call the beginning might be only the latest inhale of something that never truly ends. The earliest universe was so hot, so dense, that the forces we know, gravity, light, magnetism, and the nuclear bonds that hold atoms together, were tangled into one. As it expanded and cooled, those forces separated, and from their balance came structure. But balance is the mystery. Why do those laws exist in such delicate harmony? If gravity were just slightly stronger, stars would burn too quickly. If weaker, they'd never ignite. If the charge of an electron or the strength of atomic bonds were even a fraction different, matter itself could not exist. Everything we know depends on a cosmic coincidence so precise it feels intentional. And yet, there's no evidence of intention, just precision. The universe is tuned not just for existence, but for awareness. Out of all possible combinations of chaos, this is the one where life can wonder about it. It's strange, isn't it? How the universe seems to favor curiosity. Before the first galaxies, before stars had even formed, there was only hydrogen and helium, clouds of simplicity drifting in vast silence. Over time, gravity pulled them together, compressing, heating, igniting. Stars were born. Their fires fused those simple elements into heavier ones: carbon, oxygen, iron, gold, scattering them back into the void through explosions more powerful than imagination. Those ashes became everything: planets, oceans, trees, lungs, thoughts. So when you breathe, you inhale the remains of stars that burned before Earth existed. When you touch something solid, you touch dust that once floated freely between galaxies. And yet, Even after billions of years, we still don't know why there was anything to begin with. If matter and antimatter had been created in perfect balance during the Big Bang, they should have destroyed each other completely. One particle for every antiparticle, gone in a flash of energy. The universe should be empty, but something we don't yet understand, tipped the scale. For every billion particles of antimatter, there was one extra particle of matter. That tiny imbalance, 1 in a billion, became everything we see. Every atom in your body is part of that leftover fraction. We don't know why the symmetry broke. We've searched for the hidden law that caused it, and all we've found is silence. It's as if existence itself was biased towards survival. Maybe the universe didn't want to cancel itself out. Maybe it wanted to last long enough to see itself. We say before the Big Bang, but the phrase might not mean anything. Time itself began there, or at least time as we understand it. To ask what came before may be like asking what's north of the North Pole. Still, the question won't leave us. Something feels unfinished about the idea of a universe appearing from nothing. Was there really nothing? Or is nothing just our word for something we can't yet describe? Even in physics, a vacuum isn't empty. It trembles with energy, flickering with virtual particles that appear and vanish faster than thought. Perhaps that restless vacuum gave birth to everything. Perhaps creation isn't a single event. Perhaps it happens constantly. Space still expanding, still creating, every second a new beginning. The more we look backward, the stranger the story becomes. There's a point, just fractions of a second after the beginning, called the Planck epoch. A moment so dense and small that all known laws of physics fail. It's the wall of understanding. Beyond it, our theories can't see. Was there chaos there, or perfect order? Did the laws of physics emerge from randomness, or were they written into reality from the start? No one knows. It's humbling to realize that everything, galaxies, time, thought, rests on something we can't describe. And yet, out of that uncertainty, beauty emerged. Imagine it, the first light, breaking out of that dense fog of plasma, shining freely across a universe still young enough to fit in your imagination. That light is still traveling. It hasn't stopped. When we point our telescopes deep into space, we see that same light, stretched by time, softened by distance, whispering its story across 13.8 billion years. The oldest photons are still moving, still carrying the memory of that first expansion. Every time they strike your eyes, you're looking into the birth of everything. And yet, what came before still hides, patient and untouched. Maybe the beginning isn't a place we can find. Maybe it's not a moment in the past, but a state of being. One that happens whenever something new emerges. When a star ignites, when a planet cools, when a seed splits open, when an idea appears. Creation isn't a single act. It's a habit the universe never stopped repeating. We are part of that repetition, walking, breathing, questioning proof that beginnings are still happening. So, when we ask, what came before the beginning? Maybe the answer is simple and endless. There was always something waiting to become something more. Maybe the universe is not a story that starts, but a song that never stopped playing. Each of us a brief note in its melody, still echoing from that first unfathomable chord. Out there, between the bright islands of stars, lies a darkness that is not empty. When you look up at night, it seems the sky is made of light and shadow, the glowing threads of galaxies stitched through vast black cloth. But that blackness is an illusion. It hides most of what exists. Everything we can see, planets, stars, nebulae, you, me, makes up less than 5% of the universe. The rest is invisible. We call it dark matter and dark energy, but those names are placeholders, gentle confessions that we don't yet understand what we're speaking of. Dark matter is the unseen weight of the cosmos. It doesn't shine or absorb light. It passes through walls, through worlds, through you. Yet it pulls on everything. Galaxies spin too fast for their visible stars to stay bound. Something heavy must be holding them together. When we map that invisible gravity, we see shapes, great halos of unseen substance, scaffolding on which galaxies hang like dew on spider silk. We have tried to catch it. We've built detectors deep underground, buried beneath mountains. waiting for a single dark particle to brush against ordinary matter. Decades have passed, and silence. Not a single confirmed signal. But we know it's there, because the galaxies wouldn't move the way they do without it. It's like listening for a whisper in a hurricane, and finding proof of a speaker only in the movement of the leaves. Maybe dark matter isn't made of particles at all. Maybe it's a wrinkle in the fabric of space, a hidden geometry. Some physicists think it could be relics from before the Big Bang, fossils of an earlier universe, still weighing on ours. Others suspect an entire realm of matter and forces we cannot touch, shadow versions of atoms and light, flowing alongside us unseen. If that's true, then perhaps another world occupies the same space as ours, separated only by transparency. Maybe stars of dark matter burn beside our own, invisible, silent, never crossing paths. And then there's dark energy, an even deeper mystery. While dark matter pulls things together, dark energy pushes them apart. It's the invisible pressure causing the universe to expand faster and faster. When astronomers first measured that acceleration, it made no sense. Gravity should slow the cosmos down over time, yet the opposite is happening. Space itself is stretching, faster every moment, as if the universe has decided it prefers solitude. We don't know what drives that push. Maybe it's energy stored in the vacuum, the latent hum of nothingness. Maybe it's a property of space-time itself, elastic, restless, infinite. Whatever it is, it makes up nearly 70% of all existence. The majority of reality we can't see, can't touch, can't measure directly. We live inside a glow of ignorance, surrounded by an ocean of the unseen. When you imagine the cosmos, it's tempting to picture emptiness between the galaxies, vast gulfs of silence. But those gulfs are filled with structure. Filaments of dark matter form a cosmic web, hundreds of millions of light years long. Galaxies gather along those strands like beads on a necklace, while the spaces between them, the cosmic voids, are immense bubbles almost devoid of ordinary matter. If you could step outside the universe and look at it from afar, you'd see something like lace made of light and shadow. Every star, every planet, every life form hangs on threads woven by something invisible. It's hauntingly beautiful, a design without a designer, symmetry drawn by gravity's unseen hand. We are children of light trying to understand the dark. Our telescopes see further each year, yet the more we observe, the greater the unlit part becomes. It's as though the universe hides behind its own brightness. The stars are not the story. They're the punctuation marks of something vaster. Even our own Milky Way sits in a halo of dark matter so huge we can't map its edges. Without that halo, the galaxy would fly apart in a few rotations. Everything we know is cradled by something we can't name. And perhaps that's fitting. Mystery, not certainty, is the natural state of existence. The unseen holds the seen together. Some theories suggest that dark energy might one day tear everything apart, galaxies drifting so far they can no longer share light. Stars cooling alone, atoms stretched until even matter itself dissolves. Others think the expansion could slow, collapse, and begin again in another burst of creation. The universe may breathe in and out over eternity, exhaling worlds, inhaling silence. Either way, the dark rules both outcomes. It binds, it drives, it balances. The cosmos is a dance between gravity's embrace and expansion's escape, between holding on and letting go. When you look into the night sky, every black space between the stars is full of invisible particles, hidden fields, the ghosts of creation. The dark is not the absence of light, it's the stage that allows light to perform. We are made from the small fraction of matter that glows, yet we are carried by the vastness that doesn't. Everything luminous is a ripple on a shadowed sea. And maybe that's why the universe feels both comforting and mysterious, because, like us, it's mostly unseen. Time is the one thing we can never hold, yet it carries everything we are. We move through it like fish through water, surrounded, sustained, unaware of its current until it shifts. We mark it with clocks and calendars, but time itself doesn't tick. It flows, it stretches, it folds around gravity and bends beneath speed. An invisible river that obeys rules no one fully understands. We experience time as motion, the sunrise, the beating heart, the slow cooling of tea. But physics tells us time isn't something separate. It's woven with space into one fabric, space-time. Together, they shape everything that happens, every when and everywhere. Einstein showed that this fabric can bend, pulled by mass and energy. A planet curves time around itself. A star bends it like glass. Even light, which has no weight, must follow those curves. But this understanding only deepens the mystery. We can describe how time behaves, yet we still don't know what it is. Why does it move forward? Why can we remember the past but never the future? The equations of physics work both ways. They make no distinction between before and after. Yet the world insists on direction. Ice melts, but it never unmelts. Smoke rises, but it never returns to the match. We grow older, not younger. Something invisible, the arrow of time, points us toward entropy, the slow drift from order to chaos. Entropy is the clock the universe can't ignore. It's why stars burn out and why cups break but never reassemble. The future is the direction in which information scatters and never returns. And maybe that's why we call it progress. Not because it's better, but because it's irreversible. Still, that doesn't explain why time feels the way it does. Why moments stretch or vanish depending on emotion. Why a minute can feel eternal in fear and fleeting in joy. Physics has no equation for that kind of time. That one belongs to us, to the mind that counts it, not the cosmos that keeps it. Some physicists think time might not even be fundamental. Maybe it's an illusion, a byproduct of change. Without change, without motion, there is no way to sense time passing. If every atom in the universe froze perfectly, would there still be time? Or would the concept dissolve, like sound in a vacuum? Others imagine time as a landscape, every moment existing at once, past, present, and future side by side. In that view, we aren't moving through time, we're moving across it, experiencing one frame at a time, like a traveler walking through a frozen painting. The future is already there, waiting, but we can only see one slice at once. Choice, memory, anticipation, all illusions of perspective. If that's true, the universe isn't becoming, it already is. Eternal, complete. Our sense of time passing might just be our way of reading it, one page at a time. And yet, even in the stillest theory, there's rhythm. Planets orbit, atoms vibrate, hearts beat. Every level of existence pulses to a kind of tempo. Perhaps time is not a straight arrow, but a pattern, a loop, a song, a repetition of becoming and fading. In the smallest particles, events can reverse. Matter and antimatter flicker into being and vanish. At the largest scales, galaxies drift apart in slow motion. Time stretches between those extremes, elastic, inconsistent, alive. To stand on Earth is to live in one rhythm among countless others. Time passes faster on mountains than at sea level because gravity's pull changes its pace. The clock on your wrist ticks slower than one on a satellite above you. Every observer carries their own tempo, their own melody of seconds. There is no universal beat, only harmony in variation. We take it for granted that a second is a second, but that's just an agreement between humans and light. We define time by how long it takes certain atoms to vibrate, by how far light travels in an instant. We made it measurable so we could organize our chaos, but the deeper we look, the less certain it becomes. What then is the true nature of now? We treat it as a thin line between what has happened and what will, but physicists can't find now in their equations. There is no present moment written into the universe. The past and future exist together in the fabric of space-time, yet consciousness insists on slicing through it, one moment at a time. Maybe that's what awareness is, the act of experiencing one frame from an infinite film. We move the lens forward, calling it living. We leave behind memory, calling it history. And what we cannot yet see, we call the future. If time were to stop, would we notice? Or would everything freeze, thoughts included, never realizing they had halted? Maybe time is simply what keeps everything from happening at once. Every culture has its own way of describing time. Some see it as a line, others as a circle. For the Maya, time was a series of repeating cycles, history echoing itself through ages. In Hindu cosmology, time expands and collapses endlessly, universes breathing in and out. To us, it feels like a journey, from birth to death, from dawn to dusk, from question to answer. But maybe we're all describing the same thing, the feeling of moving through a story that's already written. Even the stars mark time. They live for billions of years, fusing hydrogen into helium, slowly aging until they cool and fade. Each one a clock, counting down through fire. Galaxies too, stretching, spinning, drifting further apart as the cosmic expansion accelerates. The universe keeps its own slow rhythm, indifferent to our calendars, patient beyond imagination. There's a quiet comfort in knowing that time's mystery is universal. We all share it, the tick, the drift, the vanishing. Everything that has ever lived has ridden this invisible current. We are temporary ripples in its flow, carrying traces of what came before, leaving hints of what will come next. Maybe that's what it means to exist, to move through a language we can feel but never translate. A conversation between what was and what will be. And in every heartbeat, every passing cloud, every aging star, time speaks softly the same word: continue. Beneath everything we see, beneath matter, beneath atoms, beneath even the light that carries our sight, there is a world so strange that logic begins to tremble. It's a place where the usual rules dissolve, where things can be two things at once, where cause and effect blur into each other. It is the quantum world, the hidden machinery behind existence, and it behaves nothing like the solid reality we think we know. If you could shrink yourself 1 billion times, down past molecules and atoms into that shimmering foundation, you would find a realm of flickering uncertainty. Particles appear and vanish as if undecided about being real. They pass through walls, influence each other across vast distances, and only take definite shape when something, or someone, looks at them. The deeper we go, the more the idea of thingness disappears. An electron isn't a tiny marble circling an atom's core. It's a cloud of probability, a smear of maybe. Until we measure it, it doesn't exist in any specific place. It exists everywhere it could be. This isn't imagination. It's the most precise science we have, quantum mechanics, confirmed by every experiment, yet understood by no one completely. The quantum world isn't chaotic, but it's not predictable either. It hums with possibility, obeying laws that seem to mock our sense of cause and effect. At this scale, particles don't move like tiny bullets. They move like waves, spreading, overlapping, interfering, and sometimes canceling one another out. Light itself behaves as both wave and particle, depending on how we look at it. If we observe it one way, it behaves like a beam. Another way, and it behaves like ripples in water. It's as though reality changes costume depending on whether we're watching. The famous double-slit experiment proves this. When no one observes, particles act like waves, passing through both slits at once, creating interference patterns. But when we measure them, when we look, they choose a single path, as if aware of being watched. It's hard not to wonder, what role does observation play in reality? Do we shape the universe simply by perceiving it? Does awareness collapse possibility into fact? Or is it just that measurement, by definition, changes the thing being measured? Every answer opens another question. Even stranger is the phenomenon called entanglement. Two particles can be linked so completely that what happens to one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. Across meters, miles, even galaxies, their states remain connected, like reflections in a mirror that stretches across the universe. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. He didn't like it. But experiments have proven it over and over again. There's no signal passing between them, no communication we can detect, yet they respond as one, as if distance to them doesn't exist. What kind of reality allows that? One where separateness is an illusion, perhaps. One where everything that exists remains quietly entangled with everything else. In the quantum world, randomness rules. Particles pop in and out of existence without cause. An atom's decay can only be predicted as a probability, not a certainty. There are no fixed paths, only chances. And yet, somehow, Out of all that unpredictability, the universe produces perfect order. Stars, galaxies, seasons, the quiet rhythm of life. It's as though chaos and structure are partners, not opposites. The unpredictable gives rise to the predictable. The uncertain gives birth to the solid. The ground beneath you, the breath in your lungs, the light in your room, all of it arises from this shimmering fog of maybe. You are made of uncertainty that somehow learns stability. Some physicists believe there's more beneath this level, a hidden architecture, tiny vibrating strings or loops of energy that create all matter. Others think the universe is fundamentally random, a quantum foam bubbling endlessly, forever trying every possible configuration. In that vision, every possible outcome of every quantum event happens somewhere. Infinite versions of reality, diverging constantly, universes branching like leaves from an invisible tree. In one, you blinked a second earlier. In another, you never existed. In another, you're still reading this, under another sky, made from the same question. We call it the multiverse, not proven, but mathematically hard to dismiss. If it's true, then the quantum world isn't just strange, it's infinite. Even the concept of vacuum loses meaning down there. What we call empty space seethes with energy, particles appearing and disappearing too fast to see, fluctuations that create pressure, waves, even light. It's like the surface of an invisible ocean, restless even in stillness. The quiet between stars is full of activity. Every cubic centimeter of space hums with potential, a low murmur of creation and erasure. The void is alive. Perhaps that's why the quantum world feels more like a dream than a machine. It doesn't follow rigid logic, it responds to possibility. And in its uncertainty, we find the foundation of everything solid. We like to think of science as a story of answers, but the quantum story is one of awe. Every discovery in this realm humbles us further. We built machines that can see individual atoms, that can freeze particles in traps, that can measure quantum jumps of energy. And yet, the deeper we look, the more we realize the question is bigger than the method. How can something so random produce order? How can reality depend on being observed? What makes the universe choose one path and not another? Maybe reality doesn't choose at all. Maybe all paths are taken, all outcomes real, and consciousness simply travels through one thread at a time, the thread where we happen to be aware. It's strange to think that everything you've ever seen, touched, or loved is built from these invisible dances. Electrons swirling in probability, photons crossing space, quarks stitched together by forces we can barely imagine. The universe, it seems, is a web of uncertainty held together by harmony. Every object, every breath, every heartbeat is a brief alignment of chaos into meaning. And below it all, smaller than small, the quantum world hums on, effortlessly, indifferent to understanding, quietly keeping reality alive. There was a time when Earth was silent, no rustle of leaves, no song of birds, no heartbeat hidden beneath the waves, just wind across stone and the endless hiss of rain falling on bare rock. The planet was young, still cooling from the chaos of its birth, its surface a patchwork of oceans and fire. And yet, somewhere in that quiet chemistry, something impossible happened. Life began. Not suddenly, not with a flash of lightning or a miracle in one breath, but slowly, through persistence, accident, and chance. A molecule learned how to copy itself. Another learned how to protect that copy. And from that small act of repetition, the story of every living thing unfolded. We don't know exactly where it happened. Maybe it was in the deep sea, near hydrothermal vents that belched heat and minerals from beneath the crust. Those vents are alive even now, surrounded by creatures that thrive without sunlight, living on chemical energy alone. Perhaps in that ancient darkness, carbon and nitrogen and oxygen met in just the right pattern, a strand of molecules that could remember itself. Or maybe life began in shallow pools on volcanic shores, where water evaporated and returned, concentrating its ingredients over and over until something began to organize. The boundary between life and non-life might not be a wall, but a blur, a slow awakening of chemistry that learned to persist. Scientists have recreated parts of that process in laboratories, sparking the old recipes of early Earth. Simple organic molecules form easily: amino acids, lipids, sugars, the alphabet of biology. But assembling them into a living sentence remains a mystery. We can spell the words, but not yet summon the voice. One idea, called the RNA world, suggests that before DNA and proteins, life relied on a simpler molecule, RNA, which could both store information and act like an enzyme, speeding up chemical reactions. Imagine a strand that can copy itself, sometimes imperfectly. Each mistake, a chance for improvement. Over time, those tiny survivors outcompete their less stable cousins. Repetition becomes inheritance. Inheritance becomes memory. And memory becomes purpose. It's poetic, really, that the first life might have been a fragment of chemistry learning how to make more of itself, not out of desire, but because the universe favors persistence. But life's birth wasn't guaranteed. The odds were impossibly small. Conditions had to be just right. Not too hot, not too cold, not too violent, not too calm. The ingredients needed time to combine, energy to drive them, and protection from destruction. It was a fragile balance that could easily have failed, and yet it worked. At least once. Maybe that's what makes Earth special. Not its place or size, but its patience. It gave time the room to experiment. Some scientists believe life might have begun elsewhere and arrived here later, riding fragments of stone. Meteorites contain organic molecules, amino acids formed in space. We've even found them on comets, drifting through the solar system like frozen seeds. If one of those seeds fell into Earth's young oceans, perhaps it found fertile ground in the warmth of volcanic water. A cosmic delivery, life from elsewhere. The idea is called panspermia, the scattering of life through space, the spreading of potential from world to world. If that's true, then we are children of the stars, not just poetically, but literally, descendants of microbes that once drifted between planets, waiting for a home. The line between life and non-life isn't sharp. Crystals grow, viruses replicate, molecules adapt. Where exactly does existence become awareness? Where does a spark become a soul? The answer may be that life is not a thing, but a process, a constant negotiation between chaos and order. Everything that lives is trying to resist the pull of entropy, to hold its structure just a little longer against the universe's steady drift toward stillness. That's why living things eat, move, grow. Every action is an act of defiance against the natural slide into disorder. Every breath is a victory, temporary but real. Life is the universe experimenting with permanence. We can trace our origins back to that first chemical breath. Once cells learned to divide, evolution took over. Some became better at absorbing energy, some at surviving heat or cold, some at copying faster. Mistakes, mutations, became the raw material for creativity. Through trial and error, the early Earth learned to build complexity. It took billions of years for single cells to form partnerships, colonies that specialized and began to function as one. Those partnerships became multicellular life, and from there, the slow bloom of creatures that filled oceans, then land, then air. The chain of survival stretches unbroken from that first strand of RNA to you. Every ancestor endured enough to pass the pattern forward. Every generation, a rehearsal for the next. You are made of unbroken success, 3.8 billion years of it. Even now, we don't know if life elsewhere shares our chemistry. Could there be forms built from silicon instead of carbon, breathing methane instead of oxygen, thinking in ways we can't imagine? We have found planets orbiting distant stars, some warm enough for liquid water, some frozen, some scorched. Each one a question mark. If life began easily on Earth, it could exist everywhere. If it was rare, then we are an accident of extraordinary luck. Either way, it makes existence precious, because it's improbable. Maybe the emergence of life is not a single event, but a cosmic tendency. Matter organizing itself into awareness wherever it can, like water finding a path downhill. Given enough time and possibility, perhaps consciousness is inevitable. The first spark of life was not grand or divine. It was quiet. It didn't even know it had begun. And yet, from that small beginning came thought, music, love, laughter, grief, and the ability to wonder how it all began. That's the beautiful irony. Life gave rise to minds capable of asking where life came from. We are the universe looking back at itself, astonished to find that it can think. Every time a child asks why, every time you feel awe at a sunset or at the stars, you are echoing that first act of curiosity, the chemical urge to continue, to become more, to reach out beyond what is known. Life is not separate from the universe. It is the universe, awake, breathing, and learning to listen. Long before thought had words, before the world had meaning, there was only reaction. A molecule sensing another, a single cell curling away from harm, or reaching toward warmth. That was the beginning of awareness, not the kind that dreams or wonders, but the first faint whisper of distinction. This is me, that is not. From that separation, everything followed. At first, the universe knew itself only as chemistry, collisions, attractions, bonds. But life made perception possible. Over billions of years, that faint boundary between organism and world became more complex. Cells learned to respond, to remember, to anticipate. And one day, without ceremony, awareness opened its eyes. We call it mind. But it did not appear suddenly or perfectly formed. It evolved, from reflex to curiosity, from instinct to imagination, shaped by every struggle for survival that came before us. The first creatures to sense light did not see images. They felt brightness, warmth, the difference between shadow and sun. That alone was power, to know where to go. Later, nervous systems wove those signals together. Nerves became networks, networks became brains, and soon movement was guided not by chance, but by choice. Choice, the smallest, simplest flicker of decision, changed everything. To choose is to imagine a future, however small. A cell moving toward sugar imagines continuation. A predator choosing direction imagines success. From those primitive dreams came consciousness itself. Even now, deep in our own biology, that ancient circuitry hums. When you flinch at sudden light or warmth on your skin, you feel echoes of the first minds waking to sensation. Memory followed. To survive meant to learn, to remember where food was found, where danger lurked, when to migrate. The earliest memories weren't stories, they were chemical imprints, strengthening some connections, fading others. A single spark in a neural pathway recorded experience. From repetition came habit, from habit, expectation, and from expectation, imagination. Once creatures could imagine what might come next, they began to live not just in the present, but in possibility. The world was no longer only what is, but what might be. That shift, invisible yet profound, marked the birth of mind as we know it. The ability to simulate, to create an inner world distinct from the outer one. Consciousness is not binary, it's a spectrum. It didn't appear only in humans. It glimmers in every animal that dreams, that remembers, that chooses. Octopuses solve puzzles, elephants mourn, crows use tools and recognize faces. A dog dreaming in its sleep is replaying life in miniature, a flicker of narrative, emotion, recognition. The difference between us and them is not kind, but degree. The same spark burns in countless forms, shaped by need, experience, and time. When we look into another creature's eyes and see understanding, it's because we're meeting a reflection, the universe remembering itself through another window. The human mind, though, became something stranger still. We did not just react or remember, we began to wonder. At some point, language arrived, perhaps first as rhythm, then gesture, then sound. Words gave thought a body, they let us trade inner worlds, and when minds could share imagination, everything accelerated. Storytelling linked generations, plans became traditions, dreams became architecture. The brain, a mass of electric cells, began to hold worlds of its own, and with awareness came burden. To imagine the future is to know it will end. No other animal, as far as we know, carries that knowledge as heavily as we do. Awareness brought not just creativity, but sorrow. The cost of knowing you exist is knowing you won't forever. Yet that fragility, that tension between wonder and fear, is what makes consciousness beautiful, a candle shining because it knows it cannot last. Some neuroscientists describe consciousness as an emergent property, a result of complexity. When enough neurons connect, awareness blooms naturally, the way heat appears when friction increases. But others think it may run deeper, that mind is not just a product of the brain, but a property of the universe itself. In this view, consciousness is fundamental, like space, time, or energy. Matter doesn't create mind. Matter condenses from mind. The brain becomes a receiver, not a generator, tuning into awareness the way a radio tunes into signal. There's no proof, but it's an idea that lingers. Maybe thought doesn't emerge from atoms. Maybe atoms emerge because thought is possible. Even if we keep it scientific, the mystery remains profound. Neurons fire, chemicals flow, and somehow, from that storm of biology, the color red exists. The taste of rain, the sound of your name, the feeling of love, regret, longing. No formula can bridge that gap between physical process and subjective experience. We can map the patterns that correspond to emotion, but not explain why it feels like something to have them. This is the hard problem of consciousness, how matter produces meaning. We know the ingredients, but not the recipe. Perhaps we never will. Perhaps awareness is not something to be solved, but something to be witnessed. The universe turning its gaze inward for a while, through us. In our dreams, consciousness loosens. It plays with memory and imagination, building impossible realities from fragments of the day. Dreaming may be as old as thought itself, a rehearsal of experience, a laboratory of emotion. In REM sleep, the same neurons that fire during waking life reawaken, replaying patterns of joy, fear, and desire. It's as though the mind needs to make art out of its own noise. When we wake, we bring fragments of those inner universes back with us, shapes, feelings, unfinished sentences. Our waking life, too, is a kind of dream, shared by billions, stabilized by language and habit. Perhaps reality itself is collective dreaming, minds sinking into one consistent illusion, so we can live together inside it. Awareness may not be rare. It may be the natural result of the universe organizing itself. Wherever there is complexity, there is the possibility of mind. Perhaps stars think in fusion, galaxies in gravity, atoms in vibration. Or maybe it's only life that carries that spark, the universe's way of observing its own beauty before it fades. Either way, every thought is a miracle, every emotion, a bridge between matter and mystery. When you close your eyes and imagine, you are creating something the universe has never seen before. A moment of originality in an ancient cosmos. Mind is how the universe dreams of itself, and through us, it keeps dreaming still. Every night, the world closes its eyes, lights fade, sounds soften, and a strange transformation begins. We surrender to something older than language, older than thought, a rhythm written into the fabric of life itself. Sleep is not absence, it is a hidden state of being. A nightly return to the quiet machinery that keeps us alive. It seems simple. We grow tired, we rest, we wake. But beneath that simplicity lies one of science's most enduring mysteries. Why do we sleep? Why does the body insist on this vulnerable stillness when the universe never stops moving? And what exactly happens when the mind begins to dream? Sleep isn't an escape from life, it's a part of it. Every creature that can move or think must rest in some form. Insects pause, dolphins sleep with half their brain awake, trees lower their leaves as night falls. Even in the microscopic world, circadian rhythms hum, internal clocks synchronize to the turning of the planet. Inside your brain, sleep arrives in waves. First comes the descent, body cooling, heart slowing, breath deepening. Consciousness loosens its grip on the waking world. Then, the mind begins to drift. Images appear, scattered and luminous, fragments of thought dissolving into something softer. There are stages, NREM, the slow and heavy kind of sleep, and REM, the rapid one where eyes move beneath closed lids and the mind begins to dream. These cycles repeat through the night like tides, each one cleaning, restoring, and rebuilding what the day has worn down. During deep sleep, the brain files memories, strengthens connections, and washes itself with cerebrospinal fluid, a silent cleansing. It's as if the mind is tidying its own shelves while you're gone. Dreams rise out of this process like bubbles from the ocean floor. They have no logic, yet they make emotional sense. You run through impossible places, meet familiar strangers, feel fear and joy that vanish on waking. The brain, deprived of external input, turns inward, stitching stories from fragments of memory, imagination, and feeling. No one knows exactly why we dream. Some say it's practice, a rehearsal for life, a way to test reactions safely. Others think it's the mind digesting emotion, turning raw experience into understanding. Or perhaps dreaming is simply what happens when consciousness is left to wander freely, untethered from the rules of daylight. In dreams, time bends, places blend, the dead speak. We become many versions of ourselves, slipping between identities as easily as breath. Dreams remind us that reality, even when we're awake, is fragile, a construction built by perception. Ancient cultures saw dreams as messages, from gods, ancestors, or the soul itself. They built temples to sleep in, hoping for divine visions. Even now, in our scientific age, part of us still believes that dreams hold meaning. When you wake shaken by a nightmare or warmed by a dream of someone you miss, it's hard to believe it's just neurons firing. Maybe the truth lies in between. Dreams are not prophecies, but reflections. The subconscious speaks in images because words can't reach deep enough. In dream logic, emotion becomes architecture. Fear becomes a corridor that never ends. Love becomes light. Sleep is the great equalizer. Every living thing must return to it. No amount of intelligence, wealth, or technology can replace it. Deprive the body of sleep long enough, and it begins to unravel. Memory fractures, emotions swing, reality blurs. It's as if the mind begins to dream while still awake, desperate to complete its rhythm. Scientists can describe what happens when we sleep, the chemicals, the brain waves, the shifting cycles. But they can't explain why it feels like surrender, why dreams feel real, why waking feels like a return. Maybe sleep isn't something that happens to us, but something we return to. A home deeper than consciousness, a space where mind and body realign. During REM sleep, the brain is almost as active as when we're awake. It lights up in bursts, replaying and reweaving experiences. Muscles are paralyzed, preventing us from acting out our dreams, but our hearts race, our eyes move, our imaginations ignite. In that hidden theater, the brain experiments. It erases boundaries, tests emotions, creates impossible worlds just to see how they feel. Some dreams are so vivid they leave an imprint for life. Landscapes that never existed, people who never lived, yet somehow we mourn them when they fade. They feel like memories from another reality, and in a way they are. Every dream is a temporary universe, built, lived, and forgotten within minutes. A cosmos that exists for no one but you. Lucid dreams blur the line further. In them, we realize we are dreaming, and for a moment, we can steer the story. The laws of physics bend to will. The impossible becomes ordinary. Some lucid dreamers describe it as pure freedom, a space where thought and reality merge completely. Others use it for healing, for facing fears, for creating beauty that waking life can't hold. If the universe outside us is infinite, perhaps the one inside us is too. Every night, the mind creates entire worlds and dissolves them before dawn. It's a quiet form of creation, no less grand than the birth of stars. Sleep also binds us to time. Every creature follows its rhythm, day and night, waking and resting, the endless rotation of Earth beneath the sun. We sleep not because we're weak, but because the universe moves in cycles, and we are part of them. The alternation of activity and stillness, of noise and quiet, is written into existence itself. Perhaps sleep is the universe's way of reminding life to pause, to reset, to remember that even the stars fade and return. Everything needs darkness to shine again. Some say dreams are proof that consciousness cannot be contained by physics alone, that our inner worlds are not random, but connected to something larger, a field of imagination that spans minds, time, and history. When you dream, you might be touching that field, wandering through the same symbolic landscape that every human shares, the vast subconscious of our species. Maybe that's why dreams feel ancient. Because they are. Because they've been happening since the first mind learned to close its eyes. Sleep is not the opposite of waking. It is its completion. We move through it like the tide moves through the sea, a rhythm too deep to break. And in that rhythm, we rediscover something beyond science, the feeling of being whole. Every morning when you wake, you bring a trace of the dream world with you, a shimmer of strangeness that fades too quickly to name, but it lingers in your thoughts, in your art, in your quiet moments. It's the part of you that still remembers that reality is flexible, that imagination is real, that consciousness is wider than daylight. We close our eyes not to escape the world, but to remember it differently. And when we dream, the universe dreams with us. For all that we've learned about stars, atoms, and time, perhaps the greatest mystery is the one looking back at us from the mirror, the human mind, the human heart. We can study their structure, map their activity, measure their pulses. But what makes us feel the way we do? What is it that makes a creature of bone and carbon capable of love, art, laughter, cruelty, and wonder? We call ourselves intelligent, yet so much of what we do makes no sense in terms of survival. We create music that moves us to tears, paintings that no one needs, stories that don't feed or protect us. We sacrifice comfort for meaning, safety for beauty, logic for faith. Something in us is always reaching beyond what is useful, toward what is human. Why do we laugh? Why do we cry? Science can describe the muscles that move, the chemicals that flow, endorphins, dopamine, adrenaline, but not why they matter so deeply. Laughter bursts out when logic breaks down, a release of the absurd. Tears fall not only from pain, but from beauty, a reaction to something larger than the self. Emotion is our body's language for what words can't hold. Every feeling we have is an ancient inheritance. Fear kept our ancestors alive. Love kept them together. Curiosity pushed them forward. But somewhere along the way, emotion became more than instinct. It became expression, a way to connect, to translate experience into empathy. Our feelings aren't just personal, they're bridges between souls. Consider art. No other animal paints the future or sings to the past. We make patterns not just to decorate, but to understand. Every song, every sculpture, every dance is a way of saying, I was here, I saw this, I felt this. Even the earliest cave paintings, mammoths drawn in ochre by firelight, were acts of rebellion against forgetting. Art is humanity's attempt to outlive time. And yet, art has no obvious evolutionary purpose. It doesn't feed, shelter, or defend. But perhaps meaning itself is a form of survival. Perhaps beauty reminds us why survival matters at all. We are not just built to live, we are built to notice, to look at a sunrise and see not only light, but significance, to hear rhythm in footsteps, story in silence, love in a glance. That awareness is not necessary for life, but it makes life worth living. Then there is belief, the invisible architecture of the human mind. We believe in gods, in luck, in destiny, in the unseen patterns that give chaos meaning. We build rituals, prayers, philosophies, frameworks to make sense of what sense cannot touch. From the first spark of fire to the glowing screens of now, belief has shaped how we see everything. Some think belief was evolution's side effect, a byproduct of a brain too good at finding patterns. We see faces in clouds, intention in randomness, order in coincidence. But maybe belief is more than mistake. Maybe it's the mind's way of honoring mystery. A kind of trust that meaning exists, even when we can't prove it. Memory binds it all together. It gives us identity, continuity, story. Yet memory itself is unreliable, rewritten every time it's recalled, softened by nostalgia, reshaped by need. Two people can live the same moment and remember different worlds. And still, memory feels sacred, the closest thing we have to time travel. When you remember someone you loved, your brain replays fragments of their presence, the sound of their voice, the warmth of their touch, like a projection in the dark. For a moment, they live again inside you. Memory is resurrection on a small scale. We are emotional machines built on fragile logic. The brain, 3 pounds of tissue, runs on electricity, chemistry, and illusion. We understand how signals move through neurons, how hormones shape behavior. But somewhere in that circuitry, the raw spark of experience emerges. The difference between describing fire and feeling its heat. No scan can capture that transition. Perhaps consciousness is the price of complexity. Perhaps it's the universe's way of becoming aware of itself. If so, every thought, every act of love, every tragedy is part of that awakening. The cosmos learning what it means to feel. Even pain, strange as it is, serves a purpose. It's our body's alarm, yes, but also our teacher. Emotional pain especially. Loss, heartbreak, regret. These shape empathy. They remind us what matters and how fragile it is. Without sorrow, compassion would be hollow. Without failure, growth would have no direction. Maybe that's why we remember pain more vividly than joy, because pain demands meaning. Joy, though, is the counterweight. It reminds us that existence itself can be enough. A sunrise, a melody, the scent of rain. These moments don't solve anything, but they make the journey gentler. Love might be the most inexplicable of all. It defies logic, overrides instinct, sometimes even sacrifices the self. It is chemical and spiritual, physical and metaphysical all at once. Evolution may have written it as a trick for survival, bonding pairs to raise children, forming tribes to protect each other. But somewhere along the way, love outgrew its purpose. It became art, poetry, madness, devotion. It became something the brain can't contain or explain. We risk everything for it. We define our lives by it. We grieve because of it, and yet we seek it again. Love is proof that the universe values connection more than control, and still, we remain mysteries to ourselves. We can map every gene, chart every hormone, record every brainwave, but the self, that quiet voice that says "I am," remains untouchable. It slips between science and philosophy, hiding in the gap between process and perception. Maybe that's the beauty of being human, that we are both the question and the answer, the experiment and the observer. Our confusion isn't failure, it's proof of depth. To be human is to live in tension between logic and wonder, certainty and faith, knowing and mystery. We will keep asking why we feel, why we hope, why we ache, and why we dream, because asking is what we are. The puzzle of being human isn't meant to be solved, it's meant to be lived, piece by piece, emotion by emotion, moment by moment, until one day, we become part of the very mystery we've been trying to understand. Every forest hums with language we can't yet hear. Roots whisper in electrical pulses. Fungi weave networks through the soil, carrying messages from tree to tree. A fallen oak can warn its neighbors of drought. A shaded sapling can be fed sugar by another far away. The living world is not a collection of separate beings. It is a single system, endlessly communicating through scent, sound, and chemistry. We are only beginning to understand it. When we look at nature, we tend to see survival, predator and prey, competition and scarcity. But beneath that surface struggle lies a deeper pattern, one of connection. Every species, every organism is part of a choreography that keeps the planet breathing. And sometimes, those connections behave in ways science still struggles to explain. Monarch butterflies, for instance, travel thousands of kilometers every year, from Canada to Mexico, guided by instincts we can't decode. The ones that begin the journey never live to complete it. It takes 4 generations to finish the migration, each born with a map it never learned. Where is that map stored? How does the knowledge of a place pass through wings that never saw it? Salmon return to the exact stream where they were born, after years adrift in the ocean. Sea turtles cross entire oceans to lay eggs on the same beaches their ancestors did. Birds navigate by starlight, even on cloudy nights. Something ancient and invisible guides them. A magnetic sense, a cosmic compass, a memory beyond experience. Science calls it instinct, but instinct is only a word for something we don't yet understand. It's the pulse of nature's intelligence, an awareness older than thought. In the microscopic world, the puzzles multiply. Ant colonies behave as if they share a single mind. Without central control, they build cities, defend borders, and farm fungi with precision. Each ant follows simple rules, yet the collective behaves with purpose, like neurons firing in a brain far larger than any individual. The same pattern appears in flocks of birds, schools of fish, even crowds of humans. Order from chaos, cooperation from noise. Maybe intelligence isn't confined to brains. Maybe it emerges wherever life organizes itself. Perhaps the planet itself, with its oceans, atmosphere, forests, and creatures, functions as a kind of mind, thinking in patterns of weather and migration instead of neurons and synapses. The idea isn't new. Some scientists call it the Gaia hypothesis, the Earth as a self-regulating system that keeps conditions stable for life. If that's true, then every leaf, every microbe, every breath you take is part of one vast feedback loop, a planetary heartbeat. Plants too show awareness in subtle ways. They bend toward light, release chemicals when attacked, and even remember, learning to ignore harmless touches after repeated exposure. Venus flytraps count the number of times an insect brushes their hairs before deciding to close. Too few touches, and they wait. It's not thought, but it's not reflex either. It's calculation, the faint echo of decision. Under the soil, fungi form vast mycelial networks, threads connecting roots in a web that some call the Wood Wide Web. Through it, trees share nutrients and warnings, supporting young saplings, starving parasites, and even recognizing kin. When an ancient tree begins to die, it sometimes releases its stored carbon to the forest around it, feeding the next generation. Even in death, cooperation continues. It's humbling to think that intelligence might not have started with us, or even with animals, but with life itself, an intelligence of balance rather than dominance. There are mysteries within the body too. Migration doesn't belong only to animals. Inside you, trillions of cells move, divide, and specialize, each knowing its role in ways we still don't fully comprehend. Your immune system recognizes and remembers enemies it has never met. Your microbiome, the bacteria living in and on you, affects mood, digestion, and even decision-making. You are not a single being, but a community. Perhaps individuality is an illusion, a convenient simplification. Everything alive is part of something larger, nested and connected. Cells within bodies, bodies within ecosystems, ecosystems within the planet within the cosmos. Each layer depends on the others, each a pattern of survival that cannot stand alone. Evolution is another riddle of grace and chaos. Random mutations produce infinite variation, but natural selection shapes only what works. Yet sometimes evolution leaps. A new trait appears too complex to have arisen step by step. Feathers, eyes, consciousness. Maybe these leaps aren't random at all, but expressions of deeper potential waiting to emerge. Life doesn't move in straight lines, it spirals, adapting in bursts of creativity. And then there are the creatures that defy understanding altogether. Tardigrades, microscopic bears that survive the vacuum of space, axolotls that regrow limbs and parts of their brains, jellyfish that can revert from adult to juvenile, restarting their life cycle indefinitely. They break our definitions of what life should be able to do. Nature keeps secrets not because it wants to, but because we haven't learned to listen in the right language yet. Even extinction carries its own mystery. Species vanish, entire ecosystems fade. Yet from those losses, new life always finds a way. It's as if the planet remembers how to rebuild itself after every fall. Evolution doesn't mourn, it transforms. But the patterns it follows, the rhythm of creation and destruction, feel almost intentional, as though life understands its own cycles. There's a strange peace in that. The world has ended countless times before, ice ages, impacts, extinctions. And yet, here we are, walking in the continuation of all those endings. Life is resilient not because it resists death, but because it knows how to begin again. For centuries, we thought intelligence meant separation, the power to control and change nature. Now we see that true intelligence may lie in harmony, not dominance. Ants, fungi, whales, coral, all of them display forms of awareness tuned to their environment. They don't conquer their world, they fit within it. Perhaps the highest intelligence isn't knowing everything, but belonging to everything. To see yourself not as master, but as participant, one note in the vast song of Earth. We are only one voice among billions, each playing a part in the same melody. The wind carries it, the trees breathe it, the oceans echo it, And somewhere in the background, life keeps time, steady and patient, reminding us that the greatest mysteries are not out there among the stars. They are here, within the living world itself. Look up at the night sky. Every star, every faint shimmer of light you see is a sun, many with planets circling around them. There are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on all the beaches of Earth. If even a small fraction of them hold worlds like ours, then the numbers say life should be everywhere. So, why is it so quiet? This is the cosmic paradox, the contradiction between what seems almost certain and what we actually see. The universe is vast, ancient, full of possibility. Yet, so far, there has been no message, no signal, no visitor. It's as though the galaxy has chosen silence. The physicist Enrico Fermi asked the question over lunch one day in 1950. Where is everybody? His simple question became a puzzle that still haunts science. If intelligent life is common, why haven't we met it? If it's rare, why did it appear here, and why only once? We call it the Fermi paradox, a question that sits quietly beneath the stars, waiting for an answer that may never come. There are many possibilities, and each one tells a different kind of story about the universe. Maybe we are early. Perhaps life takes longer to develop intelligence than we think, and we are among the first to awaken. In that case, the silence isn't eerie, it's temporary. We might be the first civilization standing at the edge of dawn, waiting for others to rise. Or maybe we are late. Perhaps countless civilizations have already lived and died before us, their signals fading long ago, their ruins scattered among cold stars. If the average lifespan of a technological species is short, a few thousand years, a blink in cosmic time, then the chances of two overlapping are slim. We could be living in the aftermath of many voices, long gone. There's another possibility, one that feels both humbling and frightening. Maybe intelligent life is self-limiting. Maybe every species that reaches the power to change its world eventually destroys itself before it can cross the stars. War, pollution, apathy, whatever the reason, intelligence may carry within it the seeds of its own extinction. It's a sobering thought. That consciousness might be temporary, a flame that always burns itself out. Perhaps the great silence of the cosmos is the echo of countless civilizations that couldn't survive their own brilliance. And yet, the universe is old. 13.8 billion years of expansion, star birth, and decay. Surely someone, somewhere, should have made it through. Maybe they have, but we can't recognize them. What if their form of communication is so advanced it passes through us unnoticed? They might speak in neutrinos, in gravitational waves, or in patterns of dark matter, signals we haven't yet learned to hear. Or maybe they're not transmitting at all. Maybe they're listening, just like us. A galaxy full of civilizations waiting for someone else to speak first. There's also the possibility that the universe itself is dangerous, that silence is survival. Imagine a galaxy full of predators, civilizations that learn to hide rather than announce themselves. If broadcasting your existence brings destruction, the wise stay quiet. Perhaps the night sky isn't empty. It's cautious. Every world shrouded in secrecy, pretending to be lifeless, like a dark ocean where no one dares make a ripple. If that's true, then our own radio signals, leaking out for barely a century, are the cosmic equivalent of a flare shot into deep water. Maybe someone has seen it. Maybe they've already decided it's safer not to answer. Another theory suggests that life is common, but intelligence is not. Microbes might fill the galaxy, thriving on billions of worlds, yet never evolving beyond instinct. Maybe intelligence, for all its brilliance, is an evolutionary fluke, fragile, unnecessary, temporary. The universe may prefer stability to consciousness. After all, bacteria have survived every extinction. Empires have not. Or maybe intelligence exists in forms we wouldn't recognize. Networks of plasma in stars, clouds of gas that think slowly, machines left behind by species long extinct. Our definition of life might simply be too narrow to see it. And then there's the possibility that we are alone, that this world, with its forests, laughter, and songs, is the only place where the universe has learned to feel. If that's true, the responsibility is immense. We would be the single flicker of awareness in an endless dark, the only mirror the cosmos has ever made for itself. Lonely, yes, but also extraordinary. In that version of the universe, every human thought, every act of kindness or cruelty, every discovery becomes infinitely significant. It means everything because it's all there is. There's another explanation. One more subtle and haunting. Perhaps the aliens are here, but not in the way we imagine. Maybe they exist beyond our perception, in dimensions our senses can't touch. They might move through time differently, or exist in energy forms rather than matter. We could be sharing space with intelligence right now, as unaware of them as fish are of the stars above their ocean. If consciousness can evolve once, why not in directions we can't even conceive? To an ant, a city is beyond comprehension. To us, perhaps an entire spectrum of existence passes unseen, its signals hidden in plain sight. Even if we never find them, the search itself matters. The longing to know we're not alone has driven some of humanity's most profound achievements. The telescopes, the probes, the songs we've sent into space. We've placed messages aboard spacecraft, recordings of our languages and music, images of Earth, in case anyone finds them one day. It's an act of hope disguised as science, a gesture that says, we were here, we reached out. Maybe that reaching is what defines us. Maybe it's not the answers that matter, but the fact that we keep asking, keep listening, keep wondering. Whether the galaxy is full or empty, we are part of its story. If others exist, then consciousness is universal, the cosmos waking up in many forms, scattered across time and space. If we are alone, then we are its only witness, the eyes and ears of creation. Either way, the silence above is not empty. It is pregnant with possibility, humming with questions. Perhaps, somewhere out there, another being is staring into its own sky, asking the same thing we do every night when we look at the stars. Are we the only ones? And maybe, in that shared wondering, the distance between us isn't so great after all. There is a horizon beyond which even science cannot see. Not because we lack curiosity, but because some truths dissolve the closer we approach them. We call it the edge of knowledge, the border where understanding fades into mystery. Every civilization, every age of discovery has stood at this boundary and looked out, humbled by how much remains unseen. We often think of science as a ladder reaching ever upward, each discovery a new rung, each question leading to another. But it's more like an ocean. The deeper we go, the darker it becomes. Each light we carry reveals more vastness, more questions drifting in the depths. Even the most brilliant minds have felt this limit. Newton once called himself a child playing on the shore, finding smoother stones while the great ocean of truth lay undiscovered before him. Centuries later, with quantum physics, relativity, and cosmology, that ocean has only grown wider. The more we know, the more we understand how much we don't. At the smallest scales, reality becomes unknowable. Particles act like probabilities, appearing only when observed, vanishing into uncertainty the rest of the time. We can measure outcomes, but not causes. We can predict behavior, but not meaning. The foundation of existence itself, the why behind the equations, lies forever hidden behind a veil of randomness. And, at the largest scales, the universe curves beyond comprehension. Dark energy pushes it outward, dark matter holds it together. We live inside a balance we can describe mathematically, but not explain philosophically. Why should the cosmos obey such elegant laws at all? Why should numbers like gravity and light speed exist, and why these specific values? We call it fine-tuning, coincidence, necessity. But none of those words reach the heart of it. Science can describe how things happen, but never fully why. Our tools, too, have limits. Telescopes can only see so far. Microscopes can only resolve so small. Time itself blurs our vision. We can glimpse the light from the early universe, but never the instant before it began. We can probe the structure of the atom, but never the nothingness from which it came. Each discovery expands the boundary, but the boundary always remains. It's like chasing the horizon. The closer we get, the further it moves. Even mathematics, the purest language we know, begins to stutter at the edges. There are equations we can write that have no solution, truths that can never be proven even if they're real. Infinity sits quietly in every formula, whispering that completeness is an illusion. Some scientists believe there are truths we are biologically incapable of understanding. Our brains evolved to track seasons, faces, and dangers, not quantum fields or 10-dimensional space. To expect human intuition to grasp ultimate reality may be like expecting a fish to understand gravity. We are creatures built for a narrow range of perception, staring into a universe far wider than our senses were designed to handle. And yet, somehow, we try. We build metaphors for the infinite, machines that extend our sight, languages that compress mystery into symbols. Every discovery, from fire to fusion, has been a small defiance of limitation. The edge of knowledge doesn't frighten us, it beckons. It's what gives our search meaning. Still, there are limits not just of mind, but of principle. Heisenberg's uncertainty tells us that some things simply cannot be known simultaneously. The more precisely we measure one property, the less we can know of another. Reality hides its full self on purpose, as if to remind us that certainty isn't the goal. And then there's Gödel's incompleteness theorem, a proof that any logical system will always contain true statements that cannot be proven within it. Even in pure reason, there will always be unprovable truths. The very structure of knowledge ensures that mystery can never be eliminated. It's built into the code of the cosmos. Perhaps that's not a flaw, but a feature, a design of humility, a universe that ensures its observers remain curious. Some physicists believe we might be living in a simulation, that reality is computational, rendered moment by moment like pixels on a screen. If that's true, the limits we encounter might not be cosmic, but programmed, constraints written into the fabric of existence. But even if we proved the simulation theory true, it would only move the question one step further. Who built the simulator and why? There is no escaping the infinite regress. The final answer always folds into another question. Maybe that's the nature of truth. Recursive, endless, always just out of reach, not to be captured, but to be followed. The edge of knowledge is not a wall, it's a mirror. When we look into it, we see not just the unknown, but ourselves, our hunger, our humility, our courage to ask. The act of wondering is its own reward. The mystery may never end, but neither does our capacity to marvel. Each generation adds a light to the darkness, and though the night remains vast, the stars we kindle within it matter. They mark the path of our curiosity. The universe doesn't owe us understanding. It doesn't promise answers, yet it allows us to question, and that, perhaps, is the greatest gift of all. We live on a small planet, circling an ordinary star, in one galaxy among billions, and still we dare to ask, what is all this? That audacity, that fragile spark of inquiry, is how the cosmos knows itself. At the edge of knowledge, there is no fear, only awe. The unknown is not darkness waiting to be conquered. It is light too bright to be seen. And so, we keep walking toward it, not because we expect to reach the end, but because every step, every question, every act of wonder brings us closer to understanding what it means to exist at all. There comes a moment, after all the questions and the searching, when silence feels like the only honest answer. Science can give us equations and patterns, but at the edge of every discovery, there remains a kind of stillness, the soft hum of existence that doesn't need to explain itself. Maybe that's where understanding really begins, not in the noise of knowledge, but in the quiet acceptance of wonder. When you think about it, every breath you take is part of a chain of miracles. The air filling your lungs was forged inside stars that lived and died billions of years ago. The water in your body has cycled through oceans, clouds, and veins of creatures long gone. The atoms that form your skin, your thoughts, your dreams, they have been part of countless other forms before you. And yet, somehow, they came together for this brief moment in time, to feel what it's like to be you. All of existence is a brief collaboration between the infinite and the temporary. That's not something to solve, it's something to feel. When we talk about the unknown, it's easy to imagine it as something far away, out there, beyond the stars. But mystery lives in every direction. It's in the beat of your heart that never asks why it keeps going. It's in the way sunlight feels warm, though you know it's just radiation, crossing 150 million kilometers. It's in the way a memory can make you smile and ache at the same time. We live surrounded by things we don't fully understand, and yet we move through them with trust. We wake, we breathe, we love, we grieve, all without needing the universe to explain itself first. That too is a form of wisdom, an instinctive understanding that life doesn't require total comprehension to be beautiful. Maybe the greatest scientific instrument we have isn't a telescope or a particle collider. Maybe it's wonder itself, that feeling that stops you mid-thought, mid-sentence, and makes you quietly marvel at the fact that anything exists at all. When you look up at the night sky, you're seeing light that has been traveling for thousands, even millions of years just to reach you. It doesn't matter that the stars may no longer exist. Their light still tells their story. The universe remembers. Even when matter fades, its echoes remain. And perhaps that's true for us as well. Our thoughts, our kindness, our laughter, they ripple outward in ways we'll never measure. We too leave light behind. Science may never find a theory for that. For the way a song can linger in a mind, or a simple act of compassion can outlast an entire lifetime. But maybe it doesn't need to. Not everything that matters can be measured. The universe itself may be indifferent, but through us, it becomes aware of its own beauty. We are its mirror, its moment of reflection. When we wonder, the cosmos wonders too. Knowledge and mystery are not enemies. They are partners in the same dance. Every explanation deepens the next question. Every discovery widens the horizon. To know something truly is not to diminish its wonder. It's to witness how infinite it really is. That's the secret science keeps teaching us quietly, beneath all the equations, that the unknown isn't emptiness, it's invitation. It's the universe whispering, "Come closer. There's more." And perhaps the reason we never reach the end is because there isn't one. Only layers of discovery, folding into one another forever. The cosmos isn't a puzzle to solve, but a story that's still being written. And every life, every question, every dream adds another line. Maybe that's why, when we look up at the stars, we feel both small and infinite. Because we are. We are stardust, thinking about itself. We are the evidence that the universe can feel awe. And that is something even the most perfect theory could never replace. So, if there's one truth that survives all the unanswered questions, perhaps it's this. We don't need to understand everything to belong to it. We already do. The atoms that make you will go on to make other worlds, other beings, other dreams. And the wonder that moves you, the soft ache of curiosity, the quiet love of existence, will never vanish. It's woven into the same pattern that holds galaxies together. So, rest easy in the mystery. Let the unknown be a comfort, not a burden. The universe is vast, but it isn't lonely. Not while it lives through us, and not while we keep wondering. Close your eyes. The stars are still burning, the atoms still dancing, the questions still unfolding. You don't have to know how it all works. You just have to be here, a fleeting piece of infinity wrapped in quiet wonder.